All right. So you're ready to dive into Nanoloop, huh?
Yeah.
And it sounds like you want the full L experience, like from those first beats to actually connecting with your D-DAW.
Yeah.
We've got a great mix of sources for this deep dive.
Awesome.
Tutorials, the official guide, and even some insights from artists who've made, incredible music using this tiny device.
It's amazing what people have done with it.
I know.
Yeah.
Get ready to unlock those sonic secrets, though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What I find so fascinating about Nanoloop is like how it makes you really think about every sonic decision.
Right.
It's like a puzzle where every note, every effect has to be carefully chosen.
Yeah, definitely.
And that can lead to some really innovative music.
You're forced to be creative within boundaries.
Exactly.
And I think that leads to really interesting results.
Okay, so before we get lost in, all those creative possibilities, let's unpack those limitations first.
Okay, sounds good.
The Nanoloop manual describes it as a synthesizer and sequencer, working on a loop of 16 steps.
Right.
What does that even mean?
So imagine a grid like 4 squares across 4 squares down.
Okay.
Each of those squares is a step. And you have 16 of them that make up a loop.
Gotcha.
And so each of those steps is kind of like a container for sound.
Okay.
And you can change the pitch, the volume, and the type of sound on each individual step.
It's like a musical Lego set.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you're building your track step by step.
Exactly.
And to make those sounds, you have 4 channels to play with.
Right.
R, L, S, and N.
Uh-huh.
And I know from the manual that the first 3 are tonal channels.
Yeah.
But the N channel is noise.
Right.
What's the difference?
So the tonal channels are basically for pitched sounds, so like melodies, bass lines, lead lines, anything like that.
Uh-huh.
The noise channel is more for percussive elements.
Okay.
So drums, crashes.
Sound effects.
Sound effects.
So I can make a kick drum on the noise channel.
Yeah.
And a melody on, say, the R channel.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And actually the S channel is kind of interesting because it can actually play chords. Oh, okay.
Which opens up some more possibilities.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got our channels.
Yeah.
We've got our steps.
Uh-huh.
How do we actually start making music?
Right.
This YouTube tutorial from VVLV Music showed me how to make a simple beat.
Okay, cool.
And it starts with a 4 on the floor kick drum in the noise channel, where you just put a note on every 4th step.
Right.
Super intuitive.
Yeah, totally.
But here's where it gets interesting. Even that simple kick drum can be totally transformed.
Oh, for sure.
This tutorial showed me how, just by tweaking the waveform, the envelope, and the delay, you can sculpt a whole range of kick sounds.
You can really get a lot of variety out of even just one sound.
Yeah, you can have a deep, boomy kick or a sharp, punchy one.
Totally.
Or even something that sounds otherworldly.
Yeah, there's a lot you could do.
It's not just about placing the notes. It's about shaping how those notes sound.
Right.
It's like going from sketching with a pencil to using a whole set of charcoals and pastels.
I like that analogy. So the tutorial shows me how to create a bass line on the L channel.
Okay.
Again, pretty simple, just a note on every 3rd step.
Right.
But by tweaking the pitch, the filter, even how long each note lasts, you can make that bass line really groove.
It's about those subtle variations.
Exactly.
That really make it come alive.
That's a key takeaway here, right?
Totally.
Experimentation is everything.
Yeah.
Don't just settle for the first sound you get.
Right.
Tweak those parameters.
You play around with things.
Play around.
Say what you discover.
And see what unique sonic textures you can create.
Exactly.
To add some harmony, we can layer chords on top of that beat using the S channel.
Right.
And that's where those harmonic possibilities we talked about earlier come into play.
Yeah, you can start to introduce some chord progressions.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Exactly. A basic understanding of harmony can really elevate your Nanoloop creation.
Oh, for sure.
You can build simple triads. You can try different inversions to see how that changes the feel, or even experiment with more complex chords.
You can get really deep into it if you want.
Adding spice to your music.
Yeah, I like that.
And even with those chords, we can use those same techniques, right?
Right.
Playing with the envelope, the pitch, even something called the step pause technique.
Yeah.
I saw that mentioned a few times.
That's a good one.
What is that exactly?
So the step pause technique is a way to create more variation in a pattern without using up another pattern slot.
Okay.
So what it does is it allows you to program certain notes to only play on certain loops of the pattern.
Oh, so it's like adding these secret rhythms?
Yeah, kind of like a hidden rhythm.
Hidden within the main beat.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got our beat, we've got some harmony going on. I'm also interested in creating melodies that have more depth and complexity.
Okay.
And this YouTube video on counterpoint from Louis Taylor got me thinking.
Okay, cool.
How can we use counterpoint in Nanoloop?
That's a good question.
Counterpoint is a fascinating way to create musical conversations.
Yeah, it's about interplay between different melodic lines.
Yeah, it's all about adding a melody that interacts with your original melody,
Uh-huh.
kind of weaving together a more intricate soundscape.
Right, creating that texture.
And the video explained how we can do that in Nanoloop by putting a counterpoint melody in a different channel.
Yeah, so you could have one melody on the R channel and then another melody on the L channel playing against it.
Okay, and sticking with simple harmonic intervals like thirds, fifths, and sixths seems to be key.
Yeah, you want to keep it relatively simple so it doesn't get too muddy.
Those basic intervals create a sense of harmony
Uh-huh.
without overwhelming the original melody.
Right, it's about finding that balance.
Yeah, it's like having two people singing in harmony.
Yeah.
Their voices complement each other
Mm-hmm.
without clashing.
Right.
But we don't have to be limited to those basic intervals, right?
Not necessarily, no.
The video also talked about adding embellishments, like passing notes,
Yeah.
to make the counterpoint melody even more interesting.
So passing notes kind of connect the dots between those harmonic intervals,
Okay.
and they make the melody flow a little bit more smoothly.
It's like adding flourishes to your handwriting,
Uh-huh.
making it more
That's
expressive.
exactly. Yeah.
Even if you're not familiar with music theory,
Yeah,
you can still experiment with counterpoint in Nanoloop.
totally.
Just try adding a second melody that seems to respond to the first one.
Right. Just use your ear.
Yeah.
See what sounds good.
Play around with the rhythms and the pitches until it sounds good to you.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got our beats.
Yeah.
We got some counterpoint going on.
Uh-huh.
But I'm wondering, what other tools does Nanoloop offer to make our music stand out?
So let's dive into some of the more advanced techniques.
Okay.
Nanoloop has some really cool features that can add depth and complexity to your music.
Okay.
And one of those is the random step function,
Okay.
which can be used to create some unexpected variations. Yeah. So the random step function lets you introduce an element of surprise into your music.
Okay.
You can set certain steps to play random pitches,
Uh-huh.
which can create some really cool effects.
Like what?
Well, imagine a drum hit that kind of jumps around the scale,
Huh?
or a melody that shifts unpredictably.
Oh, okay.
It's really cool.
It's like controlled chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
You're setting the parameters,
Hmm.
but the actual sound that comes out
Right.
is partly determined by chance.
Yeah, you're giving up a little bit of control.
It reminds me of generative music,
Uh-huh.
where algorithms are used to create these evolving compositions.
Right, yeah, it has that kind of feel.
Okay, so we've got this element of chance now.
Yeah.
But what about shaping the actual sound itself?
Okay.
I know from the video that Nanoloop also has FM synthesis.
Right.
What is that all about?
So FM synthesis is a way to create complex and evolving sounds using one sound wave to modulate another.
Okay.
So think of it like having two oscillators.
Uh-huh.
One is the carrier, which makes the main sound. Okay.
And the other is the modulator, which shapes the carrier sound.
Oh, so it's not just about choosing a sound, it's
Right.
about how those sounds interact with each other.
Exactly, yeah.
The 2XAA video showed some amazing examples of how tweaking the FM settings
Mm-hmm.
on the tonal channels could create these rich, evolving bass and lead sounds.
It's a really powerful technique for sound design.
And they even showed how to create white noise using the LFO and FM settings.
Oh, yeah, you can do that too.
That might sound basic, but I can see how white noise could add texture and atmosphere to a track.
Yeah, it can be used in a lot of different ways.
Okay, so we've explored some pretty deep sound design territory here.
For sure.
But now I'm curious about how we can take things beyond Nanoloop itself.
Okay.
Can we save our creations?
Yeah.
Can we connect with other devices?
Uh-huh.
What about syncing with a DAW?
You can do all of that.
Okay, so Nanoloop offers a surprising number of options for saving, transferring, and syncing.
Yeah, it's pretty versatile.
The Analog Pocket Guide breaks them down nicely. It's a good resource.
So for starters, every Nanoloop cartridge can hold up to 6 songs,
Right.
each with up to 8 patterns.
Exactly.
So that's a total of 48 patterns per cartridge.
Yeah,
That's a lot of musical real estate to work with.
it's a good amount.
But what's even cooler is that Nanoloop can communicate with the outside world in a
Yeah.
few different ways.
That's right.
So one option is using an analog sync cable
Okay.
to connect with other hardware, like a Korg Volca
Right.
or a Teenage Engineering pocket operator.
Yeah, you can sync it up with all sorts of things.
It's like creating your own mini electronic music ensemble.
That's a good way to put it.
But what about connecting to a computer?
Okay.
That's where MIDI comes in, right?
Exactly.
So the guide explains how Nanoloop can sync with external MIDI clock
Mm-hmm.
using a MIDI in cable.
Right.
This means you can use your favorite sequencer to control Nanoloop,
Yeah.
or even sync it with a DAW for more complex arrangements.
You can really integrate it into your workflow.
So we're not limited to just the 16 steps in Nanoloop anymore.
Yep.
We can use a DWB to arrange those patterns into full songs, add effects, and even integrate them with other recordings.
Exactly.
It's like turning Nanoloop into a plugin for your debug.
It kind of is, yeah.
And there's one last syncing option that I found really intriguing.
What's that?
The pocket-to-pocket link cable.
Oh, yeah, that's a fun one.
So the guide explains how you can connect two analog pockets running Nanoloop and sync their tempos perfectly.
It's great for collaboration.
Imagine two people jamming on Nanoloops.
Oh, yeah.
Their rhythms perfectly interlock,
They'd be pretty cool.
creating this evolving soundscape.
Yeah, definitely.
It's amazing to see how Nanoloop can be both a solitary instrument
Right.
and a tool for collaboration.
It's very flexible.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have.
We've learned how to make beats,
Mm-hmm.
explored counterpoint and some advanced techniques,
Right.
and even dived into the world of syncing and file transfer.
It's a lot to take in.
It's amazing to see how much this tiny device can do.
It's pretty impressive.
But before we wrap things up,
Yes.
I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier.
What's that?
The importance of backing up your work.
Oh, yeah, that's crucial.
The 2xAA video really emphasized this point.
And for good reason.
And it's something that all Nanoloop users should take to heart.
Absolutely.
As we get more comfortable with Nanoloop and start creating more complex patterns and songs,
Right.
we need to make sure we're protecting those creations.
You don't want to lose your work.
The last thing we want is to lose hours of work
Yeah.
because of a corrupted cartridge.
It's a real possibility.
Backing up your work is like an insurance policy for your creative efforts.
I like that analogy.
It gives you peace of mind knowing that even if something goes wrong with your cartridge,
Right.
you won't lose all your hard work.
It's a good feeling to have.
So how do we actually go about backing up our Nanoloop creations?
Okay, so the Analog Pocket Guide provides step-by-step instructions for backing up your data to your computer.
Okay, cool.
It's a pretty simple process.
It sounds like an essential part of the Nanoloop workflow.
It really is.
It's like hitting save on a document.
Uh-huh.
You wouldn't want to lose all your work, would you?
No, definitely not.
Okay, so we've talked about the technical side of backing up our work.
Right.
But there's also a creative aspect to this, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, knowing that our creations are safe and sound can actually free us up to experiment more and take risks.
Totally. You can be more bold in your choices.
It's like having a safety net.
Yeah, exactly.
You can swing high and explore without the fear of falling.
You can really push the boundaries.
So as we've heard throughout this deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
Nanoloop is a powerful tool for musical expression.
It is.
It has its limitations,
Right.
but those limitations can actually be a source of inspiration,
Yeah, they force you to think outside the box.
pushing us to be more creative and resourceful.
Exactly.
And with a little care and attention to backing up our work,
Yeah,
we can truly unlock the full potential of this amazing little device.
I think so too.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the basics of Nanoloop to some really advanced techniques.
It's been a journey.
Now I'm itching to hear some real-world examples of Nanoloop in action.
Let's do it. We'll dive into the work of some incredible artists who are pushing the boundaries of Nanoloop, creating everything from ambient soundscapes to hard-hitting techno.
Awesome.
Get ready to be inspired.
Okay, so we've heard from some amazing Nanoloop artists, and I don't know about you, but I'm ready to get my hands dirty.
Yeah, me too. Let's make some music.
I've got my analog pocket, I've got Nanoloop installed.
Nice.
Where do I even begin?
Well, the first step is just to dive in and start exploring.
Okay.
Nanoloop's interface might seem a little daunting at first glance, but it's actually really intuitive once you get the hang of it.
Okay.
Just think of it as a musical playground.
I like that.
Yeah, just a space to experiment and discover.
No pressure.
Exactly.
So let's start with that 4x4 grid, the heart of Nanoloop's sequencer.
Okay, sounds good.
I know that each square represents a step in the loop, but what exactly can we do with those steps?
So each step is like a container for sound. You can choose which note plays on that step. You can adjust its volume. You can shape its attack and decay. You can even add effects and control how it interacts with other steps.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do.
It's like having a miniature recording studio packed into each step.
It kind of is, yeah.
Okay, so before we get lost in all those possibilities,
Yeah.
let's start with something simple.
Okay,
How about we build a basic beat?
let's do it.
Okay.
So let's go over to the noise channel. That's the N at the top of the screen.
Okay.
This channel is perfect for creating drums and percussion.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll use it to make a classic 4 on the floor kick drum pattern.
Okay, so I'm in the noise channel,
Mm.
staring at that grid.
Uh-huh.
What do we do next?
Okay, so select the first step in the grid, that's the top left square,
Okay, got it.
and press the B button.
Okay.
That'll place a note, and it's represented by a dot in the square.
Okay.
Now move your cursor to the fifth step and do the same thing.
Okay.
And keep placing notes on every fourth step until you've gone all the way through the loop.
It's like we're laying down a rhythmic foundation.
Exactly, yeah.
And as those notes cycle through, we hear that classic, boom, 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 boom of a kick drum pattern.
Yeah, that 4 on the floor.
It's a simple but powerful beat the backbone of countless dance tracks.
Absolutely.
But even with this basic pattern,
Yeah.
there's so much room for sonic exploration.
For sure.
So let's play with the waveform parameter
Okay.
to see how we can shape the sound of our kick.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I hit select to open up the menu, and then I use the D-pad to navigate down to that little squiggly line that's the waveform, right?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Now use the B button and the left and right arrows on the D-pad to change the shape of the waveform, and you'll notice how each adjustment alters the timbre of the kick, transforming it from a deep, resonant thump to a tight, punchy click.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's amazing how much control we have over the sound.
Yeah, you can really sculpt it.
And we haven't even touched the other parameters yet.
Right. There's a lot more to explore.
Okay, so our kick drum is pumping.
Right.
Time to add some bass.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
So let's switch over to the L channel.
Yeah.
That's the one just to the right of the noise channel.
Okay.
We'll create a simple offbeat bass line to complement our kick.
Gotcha.
Try placing a note on the third step and then another on the seventh.
Okay.
So we're offsetting the bass notes from the kick to create a bit of rhythmic interplay.
Okay, I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
It's starting to sound like a real groove.
Awesome.
Now, play with the pitch of those bass notes.
Okay.
We could use the B button and the up and down arrows on the D-pad
Mm-hmm.
to move the notes up or down the musical scale. Find a bass line that feels right.
Exactly. Use your ear
Yeah.
and see what sounds good.
It's so intuitive.
It is, right?
It feels like I'm playing an instrument
Yeah.
rather than programming a computer.
I think that's one of the things that makes Nanoloop so special. It's
Yeah.
very hands-on.
Okay, so we've got our rhythm section locked in.
All right.
What's next?
Let's add some harmonic depth with the S channel.
Okay.
Now remember, this channel is unique because it allows you to play chords, which adds a richness and a texture that the other channels can't achieve.
So we can play multiple notes at the same time on the S channel.
That's right.
That opens up so many possibilities.
It does.
So you can enter chord mode by pressing the Start button,
Okay.
which lets you choose from predefined chords,
Uh-huh.
or you can manually place individual notes on different steps
Right.
to create your own custom chords.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like having a mini keyboard built into Nanoloop.
It kind of is, yeah.
So we could create a chord progression that evolves over time.
Yeah.
Maybe even use the step pause technique to have certain chords play on certain loops,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
adding even more variation.
Definitely.
Like painting with sound layering, those colors and textures
I like that.
to create a vibrant soundscape.
Yeah, you're building up these layers.
I'm starting to see how all these elements we've talked about,
Mm-hmm.
the steps, the channels, the parameters, all work together to create a musical world.
It all comes together.
And as you get more comfortable with the basics, you can start exploring those more advanced features we touched on earlier.
Right.
Experiment with the LFO, dive into FM synthesis,
Uh-huh.
or even connect with the external gear to expand your sonic palette even further.
Yeah, there's so much you can do.
It's incredible how much depth is packed into this tiny device.
That's pretty amazing.
I can already feel those creative gears turning.
I'm glad you hear it.
And remember, this is just the beginning of your Nanoloop journey.
Right.
There's a whole community of artists, tutorials, and resources out there to support you as you explore the world of chiptune and beyond.
So don't be afraid to reach out and connect with other people.
It's exciting to know that I'm not alone in this.
You're definitely not alone.
There's a whole community of people who share this passion for making music with Nanoloop.
Yeah, for sure.
So keep experimenting, keep exploring, and most importantly, have fun.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Nanoloop is a tool for creative expression. So embrace that playful spirit and see where it takes you.
Exactly.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the world of Nanoloop.
Awesome.
We hope you're feeling inspired to create your own chiptune masterpieces.
I hope so.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
See you later.